It's absolutely broken. That's all that needs to be said. Video over. Have a good day, and I'll catch you in the next one. For those of you that stuck around, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's start off with Greater Ricochet. What does it do? And now that Jagex has been so kind to update the ability tooltips to be accurate, we can simply read it. It deals 20 to 100% ability damage, and it damages up to 2 additional targets. So that's the base Ricochet. What the greater part of it adds is this little tidbit. The primary target will be hit for an additional 10 to 50% ability damage for each Ricochet shot that cannot find an additional target. In its simplest form, that means if you hit a target where you know there is nothing else to Ricochet onto, the monster will be hit by a 20 to 100% ability damage hit, then 2 smaller 10 to 50% damage hits. When combined together, that's 40 to 200% ability damage, or an average of 120%. Ricochet takes 3 ticks to cast, so that's 40% ability damage per tick. Compared to other non-bleed strong basics, it's already in line with them. Dazing Shot and Needle Strike have 31.4% ability damage per tick, but they have extra effects associated with them, where Needle Strike makes your next ability deal 7% more damage, and Dazing Shot, when upgraded to the greater form, will add a puncture stack to the boss or monster, which will deal a little bit of extra damage over time. Snipe, on the other hand, has 43% ability damage per tick if you cancel it after 4 ticks, which I covered in a earlier video. But Greater Ricochet has something new up its sleeve to make it even better: the Chroming perk. Each rank of the Chroming perk gives you 1 additional target for Ricochet and Chain, and 1 extra target for Ricochet means 1 more 10 to 50% ability damage added to the monster if it can't find another target. The Chroming perk essentially doubles the damage, going all the way up to 80 to 400% ability damage, or an average of 240%. For reference, arguably the strongest threshold, Snapshot, deals 265% damage on average. So with Chroming 4, you essentially have Snapshot, but instead of losing 15% adrenaline, you gain 8 to 12% adrenaline. It's very good. But we're not done here. Greater Ricochet also has something else going for it. The hits are split up. That means that Soul Split is way more effective. Soul Split will heal 10% of all damage when it's below 2,000 life points. It only heals 5% of damage between 2,000 and 4,000 life points, and any number above 4,000 only heals for 1.25%. So there's some major diminishing returns with these abilities when you get above 2,000. To put it into perspective on just how much of a difference it is, if you did 8k damage with 1 hit, you would heal a total of 350 life points. But if instead it split up with a 2k hit followed by 6 1k hits, which is something that can happen with Greater Ricochet, you would heal 800 life points, more than double what the singular hit does. With the advent of the Eldritch Crossbow special, where instead of Soul Split healing you, it now hurts your opponent for 4 times as much as you would have healed, that 2k hit with 6 1k hits attached to it would now deal an extra 3,200 life points in split soul damage for a total of 11.2k. Just insane. To top it off, each individual hit adds a Reaper stack. So if you're at a place like Virago where those stacks matter, getting a quick 7 stacks can be a great way to help maintain your 30 stacks, and keeping that 3% hit chance buff. This ability is pretty good just about anywhere. Assuming you have Chroming 4 on, you should be using this ability whenever it's up. There really isn't any ability that outpaces it in the slightest. There's one individual scenario that I do want to show off in action, and that's Nex. Nex is a special beast because it and the minions have a hit cap. For the minions, any hits over 1k don't actually do more damage. You want to use low damaging, frequent hitting abilities like bleeds or rapid fire. But Greater Ricochet solves all that. Between that and an Arma book, the minions are going to get toasted in 1 or 2 abilities. This was my first Nex solo in 3 months, and I used my Raksha preset. I end up getting 230 time, which is still pretty slow for the gear I have, but it's about as fast as I was getting with my old gear setup while I was in practice. I'm sure with some rotation planning, I could get a sub 2 Nex solo, which is something I never thought I would get. Just look at this minion getting roasted. As a whole, this ability is powerful and it's a lot of fun, but I think it needs to be scaled back a bit, and I've what I think is a pretty good solution for it. Instead of the Ricochet hits being individual, they're now split into 2. First is the initial hit that is like normal Ricochet. This will do the 20 to 100% ability damage. And then it's, instead of having X amount of extra hits, it's only going to have 1 more extra hit where the damage is variable. So if there was 3 extra hits that missed other targets and you wanted to get the damage out, you would then get 30 to 150% damage in 1 hit. And then if you had all 6 miss, you would get 50 to 300% damage in 1 hit instead of 6 hits. This doesn't change the actual base damage output of the ability. It'll still be that same 240% average, but it does a couple things that make the ability like on top of how good it already is and just not its base damage. You'd only get 2 Reaper stacks instead of 7 out of the ability. Soul Split and the ECB special are less effective with the ability as the hits are larger. The diminishing returns we mentioned before, when it gets above that 4k point, it's going to be only healing 1.25% instead of getting 10% healing on all of it. There are less hits to proc Ruby Bolts, and when it does proc, the damage increases less. When you have 6 extra hits of Ricochet and like a 6% chance to proc Ruby Bolts, pretty much every time I use Greater Ricochet, a Ruby Bolt went off. And when it does proc, the damage increases less. So that means if you're taking a 6k hit and you're having a Ruby Bolt proc it up to 10k or 12k or 15k, that's only going up 4, 6, or 9k. But if you're taking a 1k hit and you're increasing the Ruby up, you're now getting 9k, you're getting 11k, you're getting 14k more damage. So it's a bit of a nerf to Ruby Bolts there. And then finally, for hit cap based monsters like the next minions, they're less abusable with the stacking of hits all into one tick, where you actually have to use abilities apart from Greater Ricochet. I think this puts it into a situation where it's still the best range basic, still very expensive holding up Raksh's GP per hour, as it's going to be a very high priority item to get, kind of like how the Praisal Codex's value has been held up for so long, just because of how good they are and how early on in your upgrade process you want to get it. And it's still unique enough to be fun to use, where there is varying choice and decision of whether it's the right ability to use. But that's it. That's the video. I'm not lying this time. If you like the content I'm creating, consider subscribing and dropping a like on the video. It really helps out the channel, and I appreciate all of you. But have a good day, and I'll catch you in the next one.